Hi, Mackie here. Today, we'll talk statistics and probability as we address one of the burning questions a lot of Filipino high school seniors ask. Stay tuned. Welcome back. So, the question we'll explore in the next two videos is about guessing your answers in the UPCAT. What's that? It's spelled UPCAT for those unfamiliar with the term, and it stands for the University of the Philippines College Admission Test. It's one way of entering the Philippines' premier state university. So it's a test. What's the deal? Well, the unusual thing about the UPCAT, at least unusual to most high school seniors, is how the score is computed. Your score is computed as the number of items you got right minus 25% of your wrong answers. On the other hand, unanswered items are not considered wrong and therefore will not adversely affect one's score. And so, with that in mind, the question goes something like this. In the UPCAT, is it better to guess than to leave questions unanswered? As you can probably tell, this being the first of two parts goes to show that I cannot readily answer this with a definitive yes or no. Since you're most likely a high school senior, I'm sure you'll be able to follow along with the math and ultimately work out the answer yourself. Before we begin, have you also wondered why the UPCAT deducts 25% of your wrong answers to your raw score? Does that make intuitive sense to you? I mean, why deduct part of it? Why not deduct the whole cup? Better yet, why bother deducting at all? I imagine a sadistic professor saying something like, "Let's weed these kids out. Go for right minus wrong." But then the merciful ones banded together, crying, "Think of the children!" After the smoke clears, they eventually arrived at 25% deduction as a compromise. Of course, none of that is true. But if you do make it to the university, they do have a lot of snakes around. Anyway, let us now make a more sensible approach in understanding how this works through math. From what I remember, the UPCAT is a multiple choice test with 5 choices per question. If you pick one at random, it's easy to see that the chance in choosing the right answer is 1 in 5, or 20%. Conversely, the chance of selecting the wrong answer this way is 4 in 5, or 80%. Piece of cake, right? Now that we've worked out these probabilities, let's see how they add up. Suppose you answered X questions at random. What would be its net contributing score? Putting all these together, along with a 25% deduction from wrong answers, we arrive at the following equation. Working out the algebra, we end up with, well, what do you know? A 0. So what does this mean? Well, you can say that, statistically speaking, random guessing is no different from leaving questions unanswered. Going back to the previous question on why the UPCAT deducts 25% of your wrong answers from your score, it is to get a better measure of what you really know and eliminate the artificial inflation of your score based on random guesswork. And you thought you can outsmart the guys behind the UPCAT, don't ya? But then, are we random? Well, I believe we're smarter than that. Let's see what happens when we narrow down our choices. I don't know a lot about dinosaurs, so questions like this one are totally cryptic to me. But oftentimes you can reduce your choices because you know that some of them are absolutely, sometimes insanely wrong. So, in this rather exaggerated example that I have here, I know that it can never be Barney, nor Godzilla. I mean, is Godzilla even considered a dinosaur? Working out the probabilities in a reduced option set, similar to what we did earlier, We now have 1 in 3 for guessing the correct answer, and 2 in 3 otherwise. Let's plug these new values in our previous equation and see how that pans out. Remember this equation? Plugging in the values that we've derived for the reduced option case and working out the algebra, well, leads to a positive factor of 1/6. Well, seeing values like that actually kind of makes me want to just put my arms around my head like this. Because you know why? Because it's something. So far, we've worked on expected values of scores contributed by answering at random, as well as when we try to be smart with our guesses. And at this point, it looks like, random guessing at worst is no better than leaving questions unanswered. But at best, it would yield some reward. At this point, the answer to our original question looks like a yes. Or is it? I'll leave that as something for you to think about. That's all for today. In the next video, we'll build upon what we've established and work on a few joint probability cases. We'll also talk about the statistical notion of expected value. And together, let's see if we can arrive at the general answer to your question on whether or not it is better to guess or leave an answer blank. I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.